to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Come From Away. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 19th of July 2024. Winner of 4 Olivia Awards, including Best New Musical in London and the Tony Award for Best Direction of a Musical on Broadway, this smash hit show shares the incredible real-life story of the 7,000 air passengers from all over the world who were grounded in Canada during the wake of 9/11, and the small Newfoundland community that invited these come-from-aways into their lives with open hearts. So Richard, what's it all about?
Locals and global passengers come together to forge friendships that will stay with them forever. The first female American Airlines captain, the quick-thinking town mayor, the mother of a New York firefighter and the local news reporter are among the many real characters caught at the start of the moment that changed the course of history and whose stories became a true celebration of hope, humanity and unity.
But first, our post-show opinion!
An excellent fast-paced musical.
Look, I'll say it now, I just want to kiss the fish.
So with all that said, let's...
Set the scene!
Richard, would you like to describe the scene or the set?
Or the scene, or the set.
We'll describe the set.
There's not a lot of it, really.
We're presented with the inside of what looks like a bar. Yes, with wooden tables and chairs, and the back of the scenery is just like wooden
panelling, isn't it?
Panelling, and there's a few like trees protruding from the stage up to the top, so you don't particularly see much about them.
They've got lights set inside them, so there's literal. They're almost turned into lighting stands.
Yeah,
but it creates a bit of outdoors, indoors, a bit of natural. To depict that we're in Newfoundland and they're a place that's very green and full of trees.
And nestled between a bunch of trees on stage right was just like an upright piano and a lot of the musical instruments.
Yeah, and
hidden to one side.
And on stage left there was a lot of more other instruments, including a drum kit and other things that you can't see on the picture we're looking at, but I know that there's
well, they won't be able to see the pictures we're looking at anyway, will they?
No, but but it will be the one we share on Instagram anyway.
Possibly. So it starts off with them all in this this pub, or is it starting off at the pub, or is it like a cafe, or is it's some kind of meeting area?
Well,
where
Tim
they come
Hortons, where they first met, was is a cafe.
It's a cafe.
Yeah.
So they all come in.
Because I'd like to say I've done my research and I've been to a Tim Hortons twice last week, just to make sure I knew what it was. So I can definitely confirm it's a cafe.
And remember what they came in for?
Oh, they were just going about the business and they were arguing over the bus strikes for driving children to school, and the drivers were asking for more money. So that was the start of the production, really.
Go on then, you carry on. You explain what the plot and the play was about and what happened.
Okay, so this production was basically made around the true life accounts and stories of when the Twin Towers were hit by planes on 9/11. Maybe not everybody realised there was a lot of other planes in the sky at the time, flying people all over the world, and American airspace shut down. So where else could they go to actually land, because they were going to run out of fuel at some point and they needed to touch down somewhere. And Gander Airport in Newfoundland is basically an airport that used to be used by a lot of the planes that international travel couldn't actually get planes from one side of the world to the other in the sort of 60s and 70s. So they had to stop and refuel halfway, and the halfway point was Gander Airport. So that airport was one of the biggest and now underused airports that's just sat there with large runways. So it's now the emergency planning station for if something happens in America, planes have to go and land in Newfoundland. So 9/11 triggered that actual safety call, really, where everybody had to land in one place, which then meant that a town of around 7,000 people became 16,000 in a very short period of time. So this musical is written about all those lives and things that happened, and just shows what happens when you descend on a town and they've got to try and house you and home you and look after you, even when there's a national crisis going off in the country that you're joined to, really. So yeah, so that's where this whole comes from. And
so it starts off in the bar. Or
yeah,
cafe,
so really
cafe.
what we'd start off is before that actual happens.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a moment of just Newfoundlanders living and being and running their lives, really, and just saying that they're true Newfoundlanders.
And then what happens after that?
Yeah, I think as well, the first song that is basically welcoming us all into the rock, which is what they call Newfoundland. So they're just welcoming us as an audience into that world, and we're also getting to see that people are living their lives, really. And then the second song, called 38 Planes, basically is when they start seeing the planes starting to come over and being told that they've got to land on the airport. So the sort of their panic kicks in, and they've got to try and find places for people to stay, really, including school buildings, including community centres, everything they've got, really, and kitting out all the places that they've got around them.
And then it leads on to the next song, Blankets and Bedding. And I think that's a bit where they started bringing in trolleys with food in and toilet paper and all sorts of things. And then they kept there was a lovely little scene where they asked the guy to go into the supermarket to get stuff.
Yeah.
And then he then forgot to get the baby stuff. Yeah. And then he went back again, come back, and then he forgot to get something else, and then came back.
Baby food.
Baby food, and then come back, and then he forgot to get the tampons or something for the women.
Like, there's all the women that with childbearing age that are there,
need them. So then he went back again.
Well, no, she went instead to get that because he didn't know what to get, and it's.
Yeah.
And it was like it's a combination of, but it was all that panic of like, how are we going to house nearly the same amount of people, but we're not prepared for this, so they've got
on a bigger scale.
Yeah, they've got to grab everything they can from everywhere just to hope that that's enough for everybody that turns up. And the same as food and all the things they're going to need to allow people to have somewhere to sleep, because obviously there's not hotels ready for that many people. And,
no.
And that's when all the people started arriving, the different characters, because what we also saw in the 38 plane scene is people on the planes and the characters on the planes that then became mainstay characters within the production. So you were introduced to different people from all walks of life, really, and then it was there was funny scenes within that I think the key thing
it was just building up the characters that were coming in.
But the key thing about this is a relatively small cast for the amount of characters that are portrayed.
Well, I think each of them doubled up. So not only did they play the characters that were coming in to Newfoundland, they also played the characters that already existed there in different roles.
Yeah.
Just in case of swapping cats or jackets and stuff.
Yeah. And quite honestly, it can sound very confusing when you're trying to talk through the plot, because there's so much that happens in one song that to unpack that is very difficult. And it's sort of the complexity of this can be done really badly or really well, and I think this is an example of how well it can be done, because the writing, my God, I don't know how this was written, but I do know that because I attended the one of the press nights unexpectedly, and
how do you mean unexpectedly?
Well, I just
roll out.
No, booked it for my mum's birthday and took my mum for a birthday night out. And then I walked in and there's programmes on the seats and everything, and I was like, oh, I think I've booked the press night. And then after the production, the writers actually turned up on stage from Canada, and it was nice to hear a little bit from them, where they only wrote this. It would be Irene Sankoff and David Hine. They wrote this really for Canadian schools to do it as a bit of fun as a production for their sort of peers and the children that they were there with. So they never thought it'd generate so much interest and turn into doing multiple tours in the UK and Broadway and stuff. So it's quite interesting to see that, really, because they gathered all this together from stories and things they witnessed when it happened across Newfoundland, really.
It was interesting to see all these characters come to life as well, and how they interacted, and how, like you say about the musical numbers, they were so big and they covered quite a lot, but they moved a lot of the storyline in each of these characters' lives forward as well.
Yeah.
And not only that, it told it had humour in it as well.
Yeah.
But there were certain moments where it also addressed a lot of panic and fear at the time.
Yeah.
So because they got news that one of the towers had gone down or something, and then they started freaking out about the race or nationality of people, and they find out that there's like an Egyptian there, a Muslim Egyptian. And he was like, they felt he was acting odd, because they were like, when they were checking people in and checking people's passports and stuff, some of them were being a bit suspicious.
Yeah.
But it was nice the fact that it turned out that he was just a chef and he was really good at cooking, and they needed someone to cook the god awful food.
And in the end, he actually helped do all that, didn't he?
Yeah, but it did touch upon aspects of quite a lot of that.
Yeah, it did.
Even having like a modern, I wouldn't say modern, but they had a gay couple on there as well, and seeing their relationship sort of like torn apart. In fact, it touched upon a lot of relationships.
Yeah, it did.
A lot of these characters, whether that's a mother who's waiting for news of their firefighter who's probably attending the scene of the two Twin Towers.
Yeah.
To hear that her son's one of the victims.
Yeah, but does it
died?
But the whole struggle until you find that out, it's like that whole build up.
And then you've got the Allied pilot, who was quite comic relief actually, because every time she had a fantasy moment about this guy coming in to talk to her, she just felt the sexual side of her like popped out in a way. And then, well, there was this other couple as well who it was their first time of meeting, and they were quite calm. And we followed closely their relationship of coming together and forming a relationship there as well. So it kind of brought a lot of people together, and it was nice to see throughout all these songs, all these relationships go through quite a lot of turmoil in quite a short space of time.
It was like the African couple with the child as well, because they built that in there, and then when everybody turned up, when they got off the plane and everybody was in Salvation Army uniform and looked like soldiers, they thought they'd gone back home to what they've been living in, and they were going to be it was what are they walking themselves into. And I think and then there was another moment that I always pick up on is this is 2011. It's 2011, wasn't it? Was it?
No, 2001.
2001. Sorry, yeah.
2001.
Sorry, yeah, 2001. It was 2001, and not everybody had a mobile phone. Not everybody had access to information as quick. So there's a scene where they put TVs. Well, they tell us that they've put TVs out for all these people to see, and some people had not actually seen what had happened until they'd got their beds and they would actually been moved into some of the shelters. They still hadn't seen actually what had happened in the world, because they were stuck in the air, and then they were stuck on buses, and they'd never actually had anybody show them,
And also about the telephones, they kept having to import more telephones just so they can make contact, because not everyone had mobile phones.
And then they had to stop them being used because there was that many people queuing for them that they needed to get people moved somewhere else. And it was really interesting to see how much the world's changed, in 23 years. With people would have known on their the flights what was happening, and actually that probably worked in the favour of calming them down, because it got them to move more than just complete panic.
What would you like to discuss about the writing on this one?
I think for me, it's like we've watched other productions, and you know, I will refer Titanic in this, because Titanic the musical was a piece of theatre that was very confused and very messy, and this was about a disaster.
Yeah.
And it does bear comparison to this, as in it's another disaster, and it's got a lot of people that have been displaced, and the whole point of this piece of theatre, like Come From Away, is all the characterizations were strong and you followed people.
Yeah,
through.
whereas in Titanic, you didn't feel like you had enough.
Well, you lost a lot of people. You didn't really focus on any characterization in that. It was all
We can
very,
also
you know.
add in the Syndicate to the mix there as well. You had a lot of characters to talk about on that one.
Yeah.
But you didn't feel like either of them had a proper, not a worthy treatment.
No, exactly. Yeah. Whereas this felt like, even though
fulfilled.
people, and fulfilled, and also that every time somebody changed character, they changed mannerisms, language, even accent. There were so many times that different, you know, you'd got Beulah who 1 minute was being a Liverpudlian stressed out woman on a plane, and then next she's Beulah running around sorting out everything in the actual organising where everybody's going and standing her ground, and yet the previous minute she's standing up singing Titanic aptly as just as a karaoke number. And I think it you still didn't feel that those two people were connected. You felt that was one character and that was another character, and it's like you said about the star-crossed lovers, really, the ones that bump into each other.
Yeah.
That bump into each other, those two characters were other people all the way through, but those two, when they bumped into each other, you knew it was Nick and Diane.
Yeah.
It was them, and you watched their relationship blossom and their draw to each other blossom. But, you know, they were both different characters throughout. And it's the same as the gay couple.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same as the two Kevins. That fascinated me, because you got 1 minute, one of the Kevins was the Arab guy.
Yeah.
Who Jamal, and then the next minute he's playing this gay guy.
Yeah.
And complete different mannerisms, but it was just done with the change of a hat or removing a jacket or
And an
it just
accent, yeah.
and that's all it took, and it worked. It was flawless, really.
And those characters were fully fledged out, and also they didn't take themselves too seriously, so they did like take the mick out of like their own community as well.
Yeah.
And the stereotypes of
Yeah.
gay people that they themselves found themselves to be in.
Yeah.
And also it was quite nice to see that even though they had this relationship that looked quite like tight on the outside, when it got down to it, they both had different like wants and needs out of life, and they found in the end actually it's better to move away from each other, because Jamal's Kevin was a secretary to the other Kevin, but then in the end of it he ended up getting another secretary.
Yeah. And him and Kevin split up, you know.
Yeah.
And it's and I think they didn't hide away the cracks between things, and they, you know, it's a little bit like the fun little scene, and this is happening while they're going through loads of musical numbers that are really good, but it's like it's for me, it's the scene of the lady who works in the pet refuge, and she's going on the planes.
Yeah.
You could see her going on the planes, and all they did was open a piece of set for her to walk up onto the back of a plane.
Yeah, there was no animals in there.
Nothing, no animals, a few pet boxes, but it was enough to, you know, feel like there was more things behind there.
Yeah, it was enough to reference the fact that it wasn't just people that were displaced, it was the animals as well that were in cargo.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention about the two Kevins' relationship, and the fact that when they were in this Newfoundland area, they thought it was going to be full of homophobic people or whatever, and then much to their surprise, everyone was open and
and accepting,
quite supportive. Yeah, and they then that, I think that surprised them more.
Yeah.
And they became a little bit
because people live in their bubbles wherever they live, and they
just
forget,
assume, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, that's just like another prejudice that they have.
Yeah,
thinking that they're the victims, so they won't. Nobody will like them, and actually, that's not nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and it's like the altercation with the race issue with the Muslim guy and the guy on the plane, where it was like calling somebody out for being a Muslim and you must be a threat, and then there's an American woman who's saying she's Muslim as well, and it's like completely doesn't fit the mold of what was being assumed as Muslim, and it just and it's really nice that they just slightly sort of put those moments in there that just broke barriers a little bit.
And also the mayor, the person playing the mayor, who also doubled up this Nicholas Pound.
Yeah,
he played. I think that's the right one.
Yeah, I think so.
He plays the stereotypical sort of white male, married, quite large.
Yeah.
Likes
to use his voice.
Yeah, the mayor, someone who's probably like in charge or whatever.
Yeah.
And they assume that he's the one that's going to have the problem with homosexuality as well, but actually he's not at all.
No.
So it plays on knocking or making fun of stereotypes and your perception. No, not perception. Your
perception.
Perception.
Yeah.
Your perception of someone and how you assume that they're going to react to you. Well, actually,
exactly.
It might just be your prejudice against other people.
Yeah,
that's fueling that as well.
It's like when he plays the really old mayor that takes in that black guy.
Yeah,
that whole
having the
dynamic,
whiskey,
going having the whiskey and leaving his not knowing where to leave his wallet, and telling him to go and take things from other people's drives and all those things.
Well, it was Dale Mathurin played Bob, and he was the one that kept wondering about. Well, if I go here, if I collect these things, like nicking everyone's barbecue so they can cook themselves a meal, and he's also worried about his wallet and stuff. And you think, I'm going to get done for this, and then once he's found out that that's what he is, he thinks, crap, I'm going to get done for like stealing.
Yeah, get shot on the doorstep and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then actually it's like, oh, well, come along, we'll go and get some food. Have a cup of tea and stuff like that. So he couldn't believe that a lot of people are quite friendly over there. But I think it's also, with the majority of them coming from America, they have that attitude.
Yeah.
Don't they? Like, why are you helping me? What's going on?
It's ghetto sort of issues, isn't it? With life.
Well, not just for him, but
exactly,
with a lot of people. They live in their own lives, in their own little bubble, like you say. But then when you go to places like that, out of the middle of nowhere, they're more accepting and they're more interested in people.
Yeah.
I suppose this is probably, if I say if you're a northerner and you go down to London,
exactly,
and nobody speaks to you, but if you speak to them, they think you're bloody weird.
Whereas if you go up to up north,
everyone's so friendly,
talks to you and happy, and more than happy. They'll just talk to anybody. And
it's like a little cultural issue between areas.
But I think as well, it fascinated me with Bob's character is the writing was so good that they followed his character all the way through to the fact where now he's learnt from his experience, and now home doesn't feel like home anymore because he's grown up in that few days that he was somewhere else. He's learnt about another culture that have treated him like a genuine human being and felt so more accepted in a place that he's never been to, and it's his first experience, almost to the point where he doesn't want to go back. It's like it's not the same anymore, and that's fascinating to write it all the way through to the end, really, because you could have just left that he got on the plane and went home, but they followed it all the way through to the final bit.
So we are in agreement that it's like a really well written piece. What about the direction of it? Because there's
where do you start?
I know it was quite a busy play.
Wow. I don't know how they blocked it, but it's fascinating. Because when I say there's only a few tables and a few chairs on stage that become everything,
that was literally it. I don't recall seeing anything else really.
No, there was
the trolleys and
there
stuff.
was the trolley or the pet trolley, and there's but there's nothing. There was nothing grand. It was more costume pieces, as in I don't mean costume pieces a lot. I mean just different pieces of clothing, and basically tables and chairs being moved around.
Yeah.
Because your tables became a big table for...
Or the plane, or the waiting room.
Everything. But there was no stagehands in this.
No.
It was basically the cast that did it all.
Mm.
And it's a production that it's every time I watch it, you're almost in awe of how the minute one person walks off, they might take a chair with them, but knowing it's going in that position, because as they walk off, it needs to be there ready for the next thing, and it's seamless. You don't even notice it move, really.
Because musical numbers were really fast-paced as well
God,
for quite a lot of them, you know, and because it featured all the cast all the way through, it's surprising that someone wasn't sort of like left out of the loop just for like even a second. But it wasn't. You didn't even get that.
Well, it was the bit where one of the Kevins ran off to put a jacket on to become the president. Like, he literally had to run off stage and sit back down.
Yeah.
And put a jacket on in all that time during the song to deliver the president's speech, and then straight back off into the same character that he was. And it was was mind blowing, really, because it just there was tiny little bits like that.
And it wasn't just him. A lot of the time, you did see Oz, played by Oliver Jacobson. He's the one that played like the American with the cap on or whatever. He kept like leaving the set and coming back on again, but in a different entrance.
Yeah, he did.
Moving things along as well.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as they walked off, you know they were going to come back again.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite quickly.
Well, it was like the change for me between
Poyser.
So Sarah Poyser, honestly, to go from a pilot to then being a Newfoundlander and then keep flicking backwards and forwards and just...
Yeah, actually, was she the one that ran the bar or something?
Yeah, she was the one,
wasn't she?
She was like, she was also part of the crew that were welcoming everybody, and then the next minute she's a pilot. Next minute she's got to go make announcements as the pilot. And Bonnie also, Rosie Glossop, Bonnie was also the air hostess. So you've gone from moments where they're both playing, they're on the plane. The next minute, one of them's the reporter. The next minute, the other one's back to being Newfoundlander. And it sounds like utter chaos, but it doesn't feel like that when you're watching it. It's fascinating when you see it, you know.
I think, how many times have you watched this?
This is my fourth time.
Fourth time, okay. So this is my first time watching it, and I would have to admit that I couldn't take quite everything in because it was so fast-paced, and the songs as well. I'm struggling a little bit, as you can probably imagine, even though it wasn't that long ago, just trying to remember every little detail because there's so much detail. It wasn't just like we was watching one set where something happened.
No, exactly.
You know, there's so much going on every second that there's so many things that I probably want to discuss and talk about that I've completely forgotten at the moment.
And this is a production with tables and chairs.
Exactly.
An empty stage.
Exactly. So I'd need to say it like I can understand why you have to watch it a few more times.
Yeah.
A bit like Kathy and Stella as well.
Yeah.
You know, just to absorb everything in.
And it's also, you know, the soundtrack as well is done so well that you can listen to it from start to end and you almost learn it. So then when you watch it, you understand all the characters on stage as well because you start learning all the little bits within it. So equally, it helps.
So whilst we are on the subject of songs, let's just talk about musical numbers now. What musical numbers stand out for you, and which one was your favourite?
I mean, for me, Me and the Sky is my favourite.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's the pilot song that comes out of the blue, and it's actually a song that says so much about somebody's life, and I've always liked that one. I like Costume Party because it says so much. It's actually a fun song, but what it means is everybody's wearing different clothes because they've got to, and it's like we can all be whoever we want to be in this place, and people must have learnt so much in that short time that they were there that they're having to just make do and mend almost, and just be whoever they want to be almost. And
for me,
go on.
I can say for me, I can't remember that much about the musical numbers. They're not particularly gone in because they all seem to sound the same with it all being the Irish music. But Screeching stood out a lot for me because
Yeah.
it was a huge company number, and it just sounded very much like happy, jolly, we're all in this together,
Yeah.
and I quite like that. And also Stop the World by Nick. I felt that was Stop the World, Take a Picture.
Brilliant, yeah.
Now, I think that actually resonates quite a lot because you can be so busy and your life's going on, but actually your life could be ended in just a flash of a camera as well,
exactly.
because especially with what was going on.
And I think also it reminds people that you don't have to always be in the hustle and bustle of life. You can just stop.
Yeah, you can just do your own thing and just take that time out to take a picture.
Yeah.
And don't feel like
cherish
awkward.
that moment rather than throwing it away. I mean, the other thing is with Screech, it's like Screeching as well. It's I feel like you learn a lot about the Newfoundland culture in that one piece, really, because it's the fun bit. It's realizing that life's not always about being serious. I think that's the other side of that piece. It's like, even though there's a international crisis happening, you've got to find some form of relief and release. And that night it must have been a special night. They must have had to entertain people, because if you entertain people, you have less problems because you're all getting on. It's a way to get people to get on with each other as well, isn't it? As well.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're
Here for the drama.
Well, we've touched on the costumes in a little bit. Everything was sort of the day and almost normal costuming, as in it was whatever people were wearing on the plane before they landed, and whatever people were wearing in general every day. There was no dressing up.
Well, it was quite contemporary, and the thing is, had anything have happened in like the 60s or 70s like that, you'd assume for them to be in the 60s and 70s like dress sense. Whereas because this was like 2001, they were still wearing stuff which you actually still wear today.
Yeah, exactly.
It was only the uniforms that actually stood out.
Yeah.
But everything else, and obviously the Egyptians' headdress and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
However, everything else just was very much low key.
Yeah.
Everyday travel stuff, so nothing.
No, and
I
I think almost Costume Party, the song actually fueled that, and everybody was handed out things where it was just a mishmash of things, and it was quite clever because that song is also a way to get them to be wearing different costumes at that point, and I always watch that when Beulah carries them out. They're all laid on top of her arms in an order. And she walks around the room handing them out to the right people at the right time, like Kevin's jacket. By the time she's got to Kevin, it's the next one on the top of that pile. So it's like that. It's something so simple, but it looks natural and it looks organic. But when you watch it, you think she's got them all lined up and she's got to go to her first, then him, then her. She's got to make her way around everybody in that order. But it's still in a way that it doesn't have to be.
Surely she could have just had them all there, but then the other actors make it look like, I don't want that one, I want that'll do.
But then the ones they're wearing are the ones they should be wearing. That's what I mean, as in he always wears that jacket and they always wear that. And
but I mean, like, imagine like one of the other women take that
yeah,
jacket
definitely,
no, not for me, and gives it back, and then he ends up with it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, give the appearance as if they had a choice.
Yeah.
Not like I'm particularly bothered about
but it's
this.
almost done it's done in the darkness anyway. You don't really see it because I think there's other
not?
things happening anyway.
What the heck are we talking about it for then?
Because I was watching it happen.
In the dark?
Yeah,
Oh, eating your carrots, are you?
Yeah, always.
Props, again, very little props in this one. There wasn't anything as such, was there?
No, again, it was everything that they had on. Even, I suppose we could say there was prop use in the sense of there was a lot of miming props, as in, the two driving the buses were just holding the wheel, but there was no wheel, and it was all imagined props. There was a lot of playing, there was a lot of. It's like Stop the World. That was a walk around the edge of a place with a view, and it was done with chairs again.
Oh,
But they
did
were
he have?
all,
Did he have a camera?
He had a camera, yeah.
He did actually have.
But
a
that was
prop
also
camera.
the same camera that was probably used, or no, he had his own camera because there was another camera used on the plane.
Oh,
There
I
was,
can't remember.
the bit where he's taking a picture on the plane. The guy that's the policeman and all that. He was taking pictures on the plane,
Oh yes.
but that was just a different camera because. But yeah, there wasn't when we were talking about props. There wasn't really anything.
No.
It was just everyday items that people had with them.
So let's talk about the acting here. I felt they were all very good. From like Daniel Crowder playing Nick. His relationship with Kirstie Hollies as Diane. But I don't think it was her we saw, was it? Did we not have the understudy?
No, we had the.
We had.
I think it was Angeline.
Angeline.
It's
Not
Angeline
Catherine
Bell.
Pemberton. Oh yes, it was.
It's Angeline.
Angeline Bell, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I saw for 2 of the nights I've seen Kirstie Hollies as Diane, but equally Angeline Bell was amazing as Diane. You wouldn't even know it was an understudy on stage. I think all of the cast stood out for me as doing what they needed to do as a cast, and they all worked together. Nobody pushed each other out of the way. It was very much. It's an ensemble production, and all of them really have a lead moment. There isn't really any moment where one doesn't captivate or grab you. So I think that was the point where everybody turns up and just gets on with it. Really,
I thought overall they all gave a brilliant performance. I think Sarah Poyser, she was just fantastic as Beverly, the flight attendant. No, not the flight attendant. The pilot.
yeah.
She just shone. I thought Amanda Henderson, Beulah, she was just lovely and endearing.
Yeah.
And I felt Jamal Zulfikar. I thought he stood out a bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the character he was playing that had a bit of sass, a bit of attitude.
Exactly. Yeah.
But overall, all of them were just they all had great chemistry. How they worked together.
Yeah, definitely.
Including
really
the
did.
understudy as well. I had no idea.
No.
That she was the understudy.
Yeah.
She just looked so right for the role.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the tech is this?
I mean, as I alluded earlier, there's the production is a very empty stage, bare stage production, but there's some lovely little touches with lighting. I find that there's a lot of effort gone into making it feel very natural and naturalistic, and projecting almost breakups of leaves on the floor or clouds, or but everything's almost in a blur, so it all just enhances what's on stage. And then there's some lovely little moments where there's doorways open on the back of the stage that are hidden within the wooden panelling.
Yeah, that
but
was
it's
nice.
lit really well behind it, so you've got the.
It was like blue lighting, wasn't it?
Yeah, you've got some lovely moments, but also there was a moment when it rains to signify that it's over and the rain is cleansing, and they just projected moving rain on the back that you didn't really. It wasn't really visible too much, but it was enough to just give the
Illusion.
elements. And the sound, I mean, yet again, it was a musical where you could hear everybody's voice, and also this has got a live band on stage that were all mic'd up really well, because when they did a final number where they just played at the end...
They were rocking out, weren't they?
They were rocking out, but they, it sounded really good. It sounded like you'd got a top-class band and a top-class technicians involved, really. I suppose the other thing I've not really talked about is these trees that they'd put up back a stage. They'd not put everything on one side or everything on another and made them all perfectly even. Everything just felt natural, and that's the biggest compliment really I can give.
Were you going to mention about the the plane effects and stuff like that with the musical instruments?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. The other thing, it's not really the sound effect issue, but it's not an issue, but some of the attention to detail on the band specifically is they filled in some of the soundscaping at the back that wasn't necessarily music, but it was like the sound of planes in the sky using a very slowly drawn out violin note and things like that actually added to feeling like a plane's engine's taking off and stuff, and it just really faint in the background, but it was enough to hear a swell of music. Even when people were talking, there was still music playing in the background, and it was all just incidental, but it really made it feel fuller.
And now it's time for
Rewind, Rewatch.
I've seen it 4 times, and I'll see it 5.
My goodness. I'll watch it again. If I was to rewind and watch a particular scene again, I think it would be the bit where they're moving out on the plane.
Yeah.
And they're all like interacting, and you've got the stewardess on one side and the pilot on the other.
Yeah.
And they're sort of like talking. I think that's just before they come off the plane.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Or even when they're on the buses and they've got 2 sets of buses,
Yeah.
and they're both like...
and when the moose
driving
arrives.
the same thing.
And
Yeah,
the
moose.
moose is on the
That was
road.
hilarious, that was. Yeah,
Love
that was
that
really
bit.
good. Yeah.
I've got to mention the moose.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
Call this a show?
overall, this is my first time watching this play, and I thought it just moved along at such a fast pace, and it was quite strong. And incidentally, it was only like 1 hour 40 minutes, but it didn't have an interval, and I don't think it needed it either. It went by so quickly, and I couldn't see them actually inserting anything, an interval in there, because you would have like lost the energy and the passion behind it. But
Yeah.
overall, it was really well written, extremely well directed as well, considering this had so many things to cover.
Yeah.
And the cast were just fantastic. They were just bloody brilliant. So yeah, overall, this is like a 5-star show for me.
Yeah.
Even though I'll probably have to see it a few times just to soak it all up.
Yeah, definitely. It's the true test of a production if you want to see it again, really, to be honest. It's left you wanting more. But yeah, I totally agree. I echo what you said. I was fascinated when I first got a ticket to it, because actually when I first saw it in London, it was a production that, for me, I looked at the running time and I got a train to get at 9:30, and I wanted to see something before I got the train home. And I just took a punt on it. Never heard of it, never been to see it, just heard vaguely of the name. Didn't know if it was any good or not. Well, I got in that room and I walked out the room knowing I'd got 20 minutes to get my train. But my God, had I opened my eyes to something quite special. And I think that sold it to me then and then at that point. It blew my mind, because I thought, this is something that somebody is, they deserve the credit that they get for the writing and the style that they put into this, and all the work the direction must take. And also for a new cast to take it on, the rehearsal process must be massive to get this to where it is and where it needs to be. So, all credit goes to the entire team, really, and the cast.
And the band.
Yeah.
Scores then, please, Richard, for Come From Away. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best kiss to a fish and 1 being somewhere in the middle of nowhere, what's it going to be?
10 out of 10.
And I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 as well. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
Standing ovation. You can't give it any more, can you?
A standing ovation from me as well. So there we are. That's our discussion of Come From Away. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
And opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage, Downstage.
Are we recording?
Yeah, I've been recording for about half an hour.
You've got to start talking, haven't you?
I'm waiting for you
For what?
to talk.
To say what, though?
Set the scene and put the mic in front of your face.
I don't want Mike in my face.
Magic Mike.
Well, that's different. If Mr. Tatum comes close, I'll go out.
Hey, Mr. Tatum.
Put a record on.
Show me your thing. Best direction of a musical on Broadway. This smash hit shows. No. This smash hit show shares the incredible life story of the 7,000.
We need to do this.
Yeah.
Do we need to claim it's the winner of whatever? I don't think we do.
Well, I've already said it now.
Well, you just say this smash hit show shares.
Shares. This smash hit.
Great. Sorry.
This smash hit show shares the incredible life story of the 7,000
Real life.
My wife.
Real life. You said life. Locals and global passengers come together.
Oh, here we go. I might have known you to fuck it up.
Well, you know. Locals and global passengers came together.
Passenger.
Does it come together?
Yeah, it says come together. They come together to forge friendships.
Was it came together to forge? Oh no.
No. It's come from away. Not came from away.
They've already no, they're not even come yet. The quick thinking town mayor. The quick thinking town mayor, the mother of New York firefighter, and the I know. Locals and global passengers come together.
Glocals.
Fucking alright. Locals.
Glocals and lowballs.
Locals. Lowballs and highballs. Hold on, I can't have that.
Well, you can breathe after history, whose stories became a true celebration of hope, humanity, and love.
Yeah, so that, yeah, exactly. That's right. So that's
I mean, I can do it perfectly fine without having these little
off.
stabilisers in the dialogue.
No, but you need stabilisers in life, don't you? Because you keep falling
follow
over.
the instructions.
You keep falling over, don't you? So you
Why
need
am I
stabilisers. Is that the butt of every joke today?
It's going to be today, yeah.
Locals and global passengers came together. The first female American. Oh God.
Do you want me to do this?
No. The first female American airlines captain. The first female American airlines captain. The quick thinking town mayor. The mother of a New York firefighter, and then the start of a moment that changed the course. Just jumped to life. You ready?
I've been ready ages ago. Don't ask me if I'm ready. You're the one that's fluffing this.
Jesus Christ.
Is that your post-show opinion? Well, don't let me stop you talking.
Oh.